Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to WOR here for Tier 1 Season 21. And today, we head into the penultimate round of the Championship. We have had some changes to our calendar, and instead of having two more rounds, after tonight there will be only one, which means there is a big opportunity for Julian Klaffenbach to take the title tonight, because we have got an absent Jarno Opmeer. He's decided to go and play Call of Duty, so this really does give a chance for Julian to take that championship away. Of course, it's myself, Nathan Richards, in the commentary box, joined alongside Joseph Black. Joseph, welcome in. We're here for Silverstone, our home Grand Prix. I mean, the race in itself here isn't the most interesting, but I'm sure we're still going to get some decent action tonight.
When you get a really good race, not necessarily on this year's game, but when you do get a good Silverstone race, it's a good race.
It certainly is. And we'll have a quick look at the standings as well before we head our way into qualifying. So, of course, it is Julian that leads the way on 95 points, 10 ahead of Jarno Opmeer, as who I said will not be here this evening. Behind him by 3 points is Ismail Fassi, who can still stay in contention. Of course, if Julian does finish second, Ismail will need to finish in P7 at least. Any higher, then it gives him a better chance heading into the next round. And Otis Lawrence, who currently sits fifth, would need to finish first if Julian finishes in P2. And of course, Nicholas Longay in the top four, but he will not be here tonight, so he is out of contention. And then we have Istvan Pukki in P6, followed by Joris Krozen, Shanika Clay, Josh Ito, and then Kian Godendorp, the top 10 fully. And of course, if Julian does win the race tonight, Ismail needs to finish P3 to keep the title alive, whereas Otis would mathematically be out of it. So Julian needs P2 at least, but then of course it's down to what Ismail Fassi and Otis Lawrence can do.
It certainly is. I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting evening of action. In terms of how the championship fight is, of course, a couple of the big contenders not featuring this evening, so it's kind of just thrown the championship completely up in the air. Julian, of course, the championship leader, likely to maybe extend his championship lead today, but of course he's got a lot of challengers ready to fight up there, and also at the same time a lot of challengers ready to try and make a name for themselves. It's not necessarily just like it's all about the championship. Some drivers just want to win a race, and that's just the way it is sometimes. And I think we'll be seeing a few of these drivers just trying to do the same thing today. We've gone down trackside at Silverstone now, and we've got Q1 just about starting.
Certainly, and another driver that technically has a chance of going for the title, which I do not think will be possible at all, is Joris Krozen. He currently sits 49 points off of Julian, which means if Julian was to DNF both races, Otis was to DNF both, same for Ismail, and then Jarno was to not show again, and Joris won both, then he would win the title. But I think the chances of that are very, very low indeed. But technically he's still got a chance here tonight, as hopefully we'll see the cars head out onto track shortly. Normally it's around the 10-minute mark when we see cars head out onto circuit, but we'll also have a quick look at the grid for this evening. So we'll read them through from 1 to 20 just because it's a bit easier. But we have Tycho Hardy, Jack West, Shanika Clay, Renz Thomason making his second appearance. We have Joris Krozen and our championship leader Julian Klaffenbach. We have Fabrizio Donoso making a return. Then we have Denny Berejne, Alvaro Caraton, who also makes his return. And then we have Jake Bennett. We have Duncan Hoffland, Ben Shabakonyi, Thomas Ronhar, Alfie Butcher, Otis Lawrence, Josh Ito, Ismail Fassi, Barry Burmond, who's making his third appearance this season. Then we have Angelo D'Ortenzio here once again. And then Ruben Pedreño, who rounds off the full 20 on the grid here this evening. And we're just coming up to the 10-minute mark, where we should see a couple of cars heading out onto track. And yes, we get to see this glorious, glorious pit lane, which I think, to be fair, Josie, for all pit lanes, I don't mind looking at this one. It's not too bad.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's just a very generally aesthetic track in general, I think. And I've been lucky enough to visit before. I've been there with you, actually, Nathan, previously.
Not to the pit lane, though.
When we went there. Not down at the pit lane, I have been in the paddock though, of course you would have been in the paddock as well, and that's an experience that you only really get at Silverstone in some certain championships, and it's interesting to watch the behind the scenes.
I mean, I'd love to say I have other I've been to other paddocks and I get to see what it's like, but no, I've only ever been to Silverstone and Donington Park, so I can't really say Silverstone is the best, and I haven't really got much of an extended outlook. But we do have cars on track finally here in this session. The first one will be Barry Burman out on track. We have, I believe that's going to be Joris. Yes, it is, in his graffiti-styled white livery. He's out as well. And then pretty much everybody else is heading out onto track. Just a couple of drivers staying in the pit lane for now, but I don't think it'll be long before they venture onto circuit. Of course, we have got Donoso and Pedronio choosing not to qualify this evening, so it wasn't due to any bans or any infringements from last time. They've both chosen to go from the back of the field. So, of course, Julian Klaffenbach as well on track. He's got a lot of pressure on him this weekend. Of course, he had a lot of pressure back in Las Vegas, which really didn't help his race. He ran into a couple of mistakes and then, unfortunately, ended up in the barriers at turn 5. So, yes, the pressure certainly getting to Julian. But this track, Silverstone, it's one of those where everybody seems to be quite good here. You've not got drivers that are like 2 or 3 tenths off the pace. Everybody's normally within a tenth and a half, 2 tenths. So that could make Julian's life a bit easier, knowing that he hasn't got to worry about being far off the pace. Most people tend to be quite close together. So we'll have a look at who's first to set a lap, and it will be Barry. And the surprising thing is, Joes, if even though he's got a bright red car, he's still got a white logo, which is definitely going to be confusing.
Certainly is. Barry's going to, I think sometimes it's going to be one of those things where you try to switch over to him, but it isn't necessarily the right person, which is, of course, what you get when you've got a game that doesn't function 100% properly. But now he's going to head through the first sector out on this circuit, and he's going to be trying to set his first lap time. Joris Cruz, the second driver, Duncan Hoffland, the third, as everybody apart from Donoso and Pedronio are on circuit now.
Certainly. So let's see what Barry can do. Heading down towards turn 5. No, turn 7 at Brooklands. I keep getting that one mixed up. Heads his way in towards there. A very nice line. Keep it tight to the apex. Then you can wander out wide. Come back to the apex on the exit there of Luffield as you head through in towards Woodcuts and then in towards Cops Corner. A very infamous corner, but in this game it's not really much of a corner. It's just there. You throw the car through and you don't have to do much at all. Through Cops. And then you head down towards Maggots and Beckett's into Sector 2. And of course here you've got to use all the curbs, carry as much speed through as you possibly can. And then you have Chapel on the exit, DRS will open here. And then it's a long run down towards Stowe, which is really the only overtaking opportunity on this circuit. It's very difficult to overtake on F125, especially at Silverstone. So Stowe is really your big main opportunity. And then down in towards the final few corners, in towards the chicane first and then in towards the final corner. We'll see what can Barry Burman sets on the board to start things off. It's a 1:24.745. A very nice lap time from him. Then we have Joris Krozen across the line also with a very decent lap of 1:24.961. Then we have Duncan Hoffland who splits the 2 in third. I want to keep an eye here on Angelo D'Ortenzio, who's been very quick in qualifying in the past couple of rounds as Lawrence goes second. Rens Thomason jumps ahead of Ben Shabakonyi, and Angelo D'Ortenzio jumps up into third.
Yeah, D'Ortenzio up into third. That's a decent start there for the man who's still trying to make an impression, as everybody throwing in times. And Josh Ito and Telco Hardy actually setting identical times with 1:24.945. So everybody's pretty much in the same sort of region as Klaffenbach goes just the 0.004 ahead of them. Otis Lawrence with a good lap. Ishmael Fassi finding himself into third. Alfie Butcher with his first race of the season. He goes up to fourth. Jake Benham around the final corner. He slots himself in 6th place. Everybody pretty much out of the competitive lap times is split by about 2 or 3 tenths of a second. So it's looking like a competitive start to this qualifying session. Thomas Ronhar up to 4th. Danny Berejne, the last one to set a time, and he will slot himself right in the mid-pack in 7th. So it's going to be a competitive race, I think, if the early signs are anything to go by.
Certainly, and not a good lap time there by Alvaro Caraton and Shanika Clay. Both of them over 4 tenths off, and Shanika just shy of 5 tenths off the pace of Barry Burman, and that tells me there was a mistake on that lap, because we know Shanika and we know he's not 5 tenths off. That is safe to say. So Shanika's got a lot of pressure heading into that final run. The same can go for Joris Krozen in 14th, the driver normally up into that top 5 at the end of Q1, and normally in there actually after his first run, and now sits with a bit of pressure in 14th. Rens Thomason could be looking to go through to Q2 potentially for his first time this season, of course, given it's his second race only. Of course, missed out Q1 last time out, and will be looking to go for Q2 here this evening around Silverstone, as everybody else now makes their way back to the pit lane, and we'll look to get our second and our final laps underway very, very shortly. But brilliant there by Ismail Fassi, of course. He's in that championship fight with Julian Klaffenbach and Jarno Opmeer, and Julian needs to finish second in this race with Ismail in P7, and Julian would need to win, and Ismail would need to finish P3. And currently, Ismail's got a lot of pace, over a tenth ahead of Julian Klaffenbach, so that once again puts more pressure onto Julian. As we just see Danny Brezhnev, the final car, to head into the pit lane. And then, of course, we'll get set for our final runs. Just over 3.5 minutes to go in this Q1 session. Of course, we'll have a quick look at the chat. Big good evening to everybody here this evening. I've ignored you all so far tonight, so I hope you're all keeping well. Got Jonas, Not Glow, Camille, Jordan. Of course, Jordan's here. We've got VS, Adam, Blazex, Thanasisov, I think I said that right. We've got Miles, Senol, Ruv, of course, many familiar faces. Great to see you all in here with us tonight in the chat, and hopefully you'll stick with us through the rest of the qualifying and heading into the race later on this evening, because we now have our cars heading out onto track for their final runs here in Q1. Any predictions here, Joseph, of who we could see potentially drop out of Q1?
I mean, based on the early signs, I think Fabrizio Donoso and Ruben Pedreño are pretty good shouts. But in terms of the rest of the drivers that actually are in this session, I think Rens Thomason's going to be right on the bubble. I think Benche is going to be really struggling towards the end of this session. Those two, of course, at the moment, right on the verge, I think, of going out. And I think they'll be joined by Tycho Hardy. I think those are going to be the three drivers that join Donoso and Pedreño out in Q1.
Certainly, and I've noticed a few people saying Jarno isn't racing, I'm not watching. Well, I think that is a very silly thing to say, because no matter if Jarno races or not, we still have great action here, and we still have a title to be decided. You know, nevertheless, there's still some very important action here tonight, so don't go anywhere. Believe me, you will not want to miss out on the action here tonight. And of course, Jarno isn't racing because he's, I believe, playing Call of Duty. So yes, hopefully he'll be back next week for the final round. If not, then it's a farewell to Jarno for F125, as unfortunately we will not be back here for WOR Tier 1 on F125. This is our one and only season on this game, and I'm sure if EA were more competent and made a better game, we'd probably be back for a couple more, but unfortunately not. I think, yeah, it's partly to do with EA being EA, and also hopefully esports beginning next year. I'm hoping January, February time, otherwise it could be a long wait, and actually waiting for something to happen with F1 esports. So yes, I think there's a mixture of factors of why we're not going to be back, but yes, you might as well make the most of the final two races.
Yeah, it makes sense to make the most of them. Why wouldn't you? Because, of course, once we've done this, then it's going to be nothing until F1 esports is going to get underway. Of course, the other mysterious league that I won't mention isn't coming back, and nor will this be. So this is your only opportunity to see these drivers perform out on the circuit. At the moment, we've got 5 retired from this Q1 session. Lawrence Fassi, Ron Butcher and Dortenzio, who think they have done enough to make it through to Q2. And, well, it's the final run for everybody else who's out on the circuit, including Barry Burman, who I'd say is safe, but, I mean, it's a tight pack, so I can sort of understand him going again. We'll see what he does, of course. The white car that's actually a red car, but we'll see. 15 drivers will make it through to Q2 session 3. Will be out of this session at the moment. It's Zabo Konyi, Caraton and Clay, and Zabo Konyi's just started his lap. Certainly, I'm just watching here Joris Krozen heading his way down towards Maggots and Beckett's. Of course, these are the final runs in Q1. Everybody 7th down has gone again. Of course, Barry has gone again, but he's safe because there's 7 cars below him, so there's no way he can drop out of Q1, but I suppose he just wants to get another lap on the board. But Joris here
under a lot of pressure now. 14th, around a 10th away from that drop zone. Of course, needs to find a couple of tenths to be safe here. As Ben Shabakoni will stay 12th. He will not improve on that lap time, and that could certainly put him under pressure. What can Joris Krozen do as we head up towards the line? He goes into P6. That should be safe for him. Next, it's Jack West, who's down in Sector 2, but of course, he has one sector to go up to the line. He stays in P11. No improvement for him. Then we have Tycho Hardy, currently on the bubble, around a 10th away from that drop zone. What can he set on the board? He goes 7th. That will save him in towards Q2. Then we have a few more cars to settle at. Barry Berman goes a 10th quicker. He extends that lead. Shanika Clay will be out of Q1. An improvement, but not enough to go through into Q2. Let's see what Renz Thomason can do as we see Josh Ido go up to P8. Renz, can he make his way out? No, he goes into 16th place. Shabakonyi could potentially survive unless Karaton can improve, and he does. Shabakonyi will be out in 16th place. What about Julian Klaffenbach? He's in anyway, but can he improve on that lap time? He certainly can. But look at the gaps there at the bottom there, Joseph. It's not even a 10th separating the bottom 5.
It's incredibly tight, and Ben Shazabo is only 2 thousandths ahead of Josh Ido. Joris Krozen sets himself safe. What can Jack West do around the final corner? He wasn't improving in the first 2 sectors. Is this going to be what he wanted? No. He's found 300ths, but it's still not enough. Tycho Hardy now around the final corner. What's he going to be able to do to stake his claim for Q3? Or Q2 even. He's actually made his way into a pretty comfortable position as, well, now it's Barry Burman goes even quicker. He's doing very well heading on to the next qualifying session, and Shanika is confirmed out. Renz is going to be the next one up to the line in 17th. Is he going to be able to push Bencher down? He's able to push Shanika, but it's not Bencher, so Renz is out as well. And Alvaro to try and make himself safe. He does so. Bencher Zabokonyi out of qualifying. Julian Klaffenbach just 2 thousandths ahead, but he is improving, and he's going to be improving significantly. It's doing he's done a good job to climb up to 9th there. Very much under pressure, but we know the last couple of weeks, Julian's taken some time to get going in qualifying, and well, he climbs up to 9th.
I hate to tell you, Joseph, but the qualifying session ended a minute ago. You've basically just run through the exact same thing I ran through. I presume you must have some delay your end.
I've not been able to get into the lobby yet. Which is the problem.
You should be able to join off somebody. I can't, because I have to pause the game and tab out into Steam, and I don't want to.
I haven't got anybody added who's racing this evening, and I asked for an ad, and nobody's responded.
I'll share my screen, see if that does the job. Hopefully it does.
Thank you very much.
If it goes laggy, then, or if the stream goes laggy, guys, let me know, because if it does, then I'll have to turn the stream off. But it should be fine. It looks fine my end at least, anyway. So just let us know if the quality is fine or not, as we see our cars going out onto track. And I'd like to look at the chat and say the work that we have for our graphics here, Kian, is top notch, very good quality, and that's what you pay for. You pay for the top quality graphics. So yes, he's not robbing anyone at all. You pay for quality. You know, we could pay you for something cheap, but it's going to be nowhere near what we get from Chris. So yes, I understand you're quite angry that Yono's not racing, but please don't take it out on our graphic designer, because that guy's done nothing wrong.
No, certainly hasn't. He provides high quality as well, so there shouldn't be any problem with what he does as well. And I know he's very, very qualified. So Chris, if you're watching, hi. We very much appreciate your work. This start of the Q2 session is getting underway, and most drivers are out on circuit. West, Krozen and D'Ortenzio look like they might be skipping this first stint though.
Certainly, they're just going to stay in the pits, and I suppose they don't want to bother using up a set of tyres if they know they've got the pace. There's no point going out there and burning up another set in Q2 when you could probably do it on just 2 runs rather than 3, as we go on board here with Jake Benham heading in towards the first sector. A decent opening couple of corners for him, but of course still has 2.5 sectors to go on this lap as he makes his way out of the loop. And unfortunately, it seems Joris had a disconnection, but he is back, however, and hopefully he can stay in, because Joris tends to have a lot of disconnection on this game, which is very unfortunate for him. But hopefully he can get back out onto track very, very shortly. It's Jake now heading his way through in towards Woodcote and then the national pitch straight in towards Cox Corner. And we'll see what he can do in this middle sector. He makes his way through a decent opening lap for him, but of course there's going to be drivers here that are on new tyres. There are also going to be drivers that are on an old set of tyres, because not all of them want to use up all their sets before Q3. You'd rather have as many tyres going into Q3 as possible as the DRS now is open. As we head down towards Stowe, and we'll see what Jake can do on his first lap, and following him down towards Stowe, I think, is Tycho Hardy.
Yes, I believe so, and the drivers will be coming up to the line to set their first laps in this Q2 session, and I'd imagine most of them will be on a scrubbed set. So Benham around the final corner, it'll be a 25.1, and all the other drivers look like they're either diving into the pits or setting a lap time. That'll be in and around that. Josh Edo 25.2, Otis Lawrence 24.9, Thomas Ronha around the final couple of corners, and we'll see what he is able to set. He is going to come across the line and actually do a time, and it will be a 24.7, which will be 2/10 ahead of Otis Lawrence, almost on the nose. Duncan Hoffler now in the second sector.
Certainly, and it's also nice to see Thomas actually taking part in qualifying, because, you know, in T1 here and over in PSGL, he tends on many occasions just to pull out of qualifying and not bother, and starting from the back. He's had a couple of last podiums and last to firsts here in the past, but tonight he might be looking to go from first to first and potentially help Julian, because they are teammates. As well as in, RHG on a whole, they're also teammates here in Kicksaber at Tier 1. So there's definitely going to be some team games, I think, here if needed by Thomas for Julian. And the same could potentially go for Barry, trying to help Ismail Fassi, because they're also teammates here in WOR, but at Ferrari as well. So yes, lots of team games could be here tonight. And of course, Otis Lawrence will be looking for something brilliant, because he will want to keep his championship charge alive. If Julian finishes P2, Otis needs to win. If Julian finishes lower, then Otis, would ideally want to finish first, but he could also finish a couple of positions lower as well. So there's lots to fight for here tonight in WOR T1. There's going to be 4 potential championship contenders, because Nicholas Longate isn't here, so he's out of it. So we do have Julian, Otis, Ismail Fassi, and then Jarno Opmeer. But of course, Jarno not being here makes his chances a lot lower heading into next week. So lots on the line, but I mean, this is one of those seasons here, Joseph, where you actually don't know who it's going to go the way of, because Julian was brilliant, but he's had a couple of performances which I don't say represent him at all. Jarno's not here, so he's going to have lots of pressure piled onto him. Ismail Fassi's not been insane, he's just been consistent. And then Otis as well, he's either up there or he's in the bottom half of the top 10. So you can't really put anyone's name in the hat, can you, really, to say they've got the biggest chance?
No, I don't think you can. I mean, there's different drivers who have different performances over different circuits, and because it's so tightly packed together, any driver who's got an extra 100th or 2 of a second in qualifying or in the race is going to have a massive advantage. And it'll be interesting to watch, I think, towards the end of at least this qualifying session, to see what these drivers are actually capable of in terms of their true raw pace, which we will get more in Q3 from the top 10. But the top 15 as well are going to be trying to push to the extremities. There'll be a few, or the top 14, not including Barry. I think there'll be a few drivers who'll be hoping, at least, to maybe push towards the end of this session, go 100% to make it through to Q3. I think the majority of these drivers are expected really to be fighting for it, but I think the likes of Tycho Hardy and Angelo D'Ortenzio, who are less established at the top, will be, every Q3 performance will be, it will be a positive for them, and so I think they'll be pushing 100% at the end of this session. I think this is going to be the first run on new tyres, though, so we'll see what their true pace starts to unfold as.
Certainly, as most drivers now, well, everyone's on track at the moment. Danny Brezhnev will be the last one to set a lap. He's just making his way through out of Woodcote. And I noticed Barry's retired, which I don't know why. I don't know if he crashed. I don't think he did, because I'm sure we would have noticed that. But yes, no Barry in Q2, so he's out, which means only 4 cars we will lose from those running on circuit. The first driver on a lap is the Italian youngster Angelo D'Ortenzio, who was just kind of sprung through the steps of the tiers over the past year. At one moment he was F2, probably F3 level, then out of nowhere he's up at the top. He's part of Ferrari and he's racing here in WOR Tier 1. Brilliant to see his development over the past few months, and the same can go for the likes of Luca Rapasses, Leo Lunds, not just Angelo. There's so many drivers making their way through the scene. I think Julian as well can be included. I know he's been here a bit longer, but he also had to fight a lot to get up to that top step. So brilliant to see so many young drivers making their way through and showing that they have the pace against some of the veterans. But we'll see what Angelo can do on his first lap as he makes his way through out of Mackett and Beckett, down towards Stowe Corner. And then, of course, 2 corners to go. The chicane and then the final corner. We'll see what he can do on this lap. Of course, as we know, overtaken is more of a reward here rather than actually something you can kind of just do. You've got to graft a lot to overtake, so qualifying is so important here tonight. Let's see what Angelo can do. Up to the line, it's a 24.627. A nice lap indeed from him, but of course there'll be many other drivers looking to beat that, as Julian has invalidated. Now that is not going to help him with his confidence.
But it looks like he might be going again. Not sure what Julian's doing. I think maybe he invalidated early in the lap, early enough so that he could at least attempt another go. Cruising around the final corner. It's going to be a 24.8. Slots him in right in the mid-pack. Jack West, 4th. Ismail Fassi, who looked decent in Q1, is looking decent in Q2. He goes to that pole position. Alfie Butcher will join him on the provisional front row, just ahead of Angelo D'Ortenzio. But there is a sizable gap between D'Ortenzio and Ronha that's just been filled by Jake Benham and Josh Ido, as well as now Alvaro Caraton around the final corner. 24.854. So only about 2/10 off of the time of Angelo D'Ortenzio. He finds himself on the bubble in 10th place. Ronha goes quickest of all, 24.554. Berejnet around the final corner in 9th. Klaffenbach, is he going again? Is he pushing on this lap? I believe he is. So we'll see what he's going to be capable of on the second of his second run, basically.
Certainly, and I don't know if he's on the lap, but I don't think it's that often we see drivers shift down to 6th gear through cops. Normally it's 7th, and that's at a max. Some drivers take it in 8th, so yes, I didn't expect to see him taking it in that gear. He's done a 105.100. I don't think that's too bad on this lap, but we'll see what he can do once he, of course, makes his way to the line. And I think he is going to be heading back to the pit. Yes, he will. He's shifting down on the exit of Stowe, so he'll be making his way back to the pit lane as he also overtakes somebody in the process. I think it was not so hard. It would have been, I think, Angelo. Yes, overtook Angelo as he heads into the pit lane. I think Angelo's run out of fuel, so he can't speed up at all. He's just got to roll it in, and then, of course, he'll get refueled and go again in this session. But, of course, it's Thomas Ronha who tops the session here currently, ahead of Ismail Fassi in 2nd place. So it is Lawrence 3rd, only 20 thousandths separating those 3. Then there's a gap of half a tenth back to Alfie Butcher, who's got around 10 thousandths to Angelo D'Ortenzio, and then another half a second back to Jake Benham. So it's relatively close in groups, but over the session there's a big gap, especially from 1st down to 10th. 3/10 there separating Thomas and Jack West, but they're still very competitive groups, which does sometimes make things a bit difficult because you've got to find even more time to just make up one position, never mind get yourself safe into Q3.
Ismail Fassi thinking he's safe in Q3, and he's going to retire from the session 9 thousandths in behind Thomas Ronha, and actually exactly 9 thousandths ahead of Otis Lawrence, as well as Ronha has decided to call it quits for Q2. I think 0.5 is going to be safe. I don't think there's any doubt about that one, with Jack West, the driver on the bubble, being on a 24.8 and Alvaro Caraton, the driver just outside, on exactly the same. I think it will be 24.6s that will be under pressure right at the end. The likes of Jake Benham with a 6.98 will be right at the very bottom, 9th or 10th, if he is going to make it through to Q3 without improving. As we are going to get a couple of drivers now coming out of the pit lane nice and early. And, well, we'll see what they're going to be whether they're just going to be taking a slow out lap, whether they're going to be trying to set a lap before everybody else makes it out on the circuit. Personally, I think they're going to be just trying to take it as slowly as possible and prepare themselves as best they can, as it's Jack West and Alfie Butcher out on circuit. There we go. It took about 20 seconds for them to realise that they're out of the pit lane, but there we go. Alfie Butcher, of course, that's going to be the car. Kind of looks like a Ferrari attempt, doesn't it, for Butcher? But I mean,
I don't think so. It's red and blue, and it's more of a burgundy colour. Reminds me of my old primary school T-shirt, which was burgundy. So I don't know what you class it as. You have old school maroon. I've heard of that colour. You've got burgundy. Is it like crimson red? I don't know. It's a nice colour, and then the blue as well. A nice little addition. And I think Jake has got the exact same livery, which I think he has. Of course, both him and Alfie, very good friends in esports and very good friends outside of esports. As that just confirms, we're going to have our livery starters. Jake gets a 5-place penalty for illegal blocking, which I'm glad Joseph has disappeared on this game, because I think we all forgot about it on F123. Every single time we went out on track, you'd have cars getting penalties, and I think on a couple of occasions we actually had a couple of cars get disqualified as well.
I don't really know what they expect you to do. I really don't, because you're trying to prepare yourself. There's nobody, they're not on a push flat behind you. So it feels like it's something that could have been fixed about 20 years ago, but unfortunately it hasn't been. Just over 1 minute left in the session. Everybody here will get a time on the board, I think, as it might be close to the beam for Danny Berejne, but I think everyone's going to be all right.
Certainly.
It's going to be Jack West, the first driver, to head out on a lap, trying to improve on the time that just about provisionally puts him through to Q3.
And it makes sense now of why, as Jack West makes a big mistake in towards turn 3, a big lock-up for him, as it makes sense why Alfie's got that livery. He's a West Ham fan. Now it makes sense. The red burgundy colour and the blue. There we go. He must be having a very hard time in the life of football. I mean, for myself as a Birmingham City fan, it could certainly be a lot better. So I do have my commiserations for Alfie and also the Wolves fans out there in the scene. But back to qualifying. Jack West first. He's going to be in a very, very nice, I think a remake of the old McLaren livery with the white and the red as he makes his way down towards Maggots and Beckett's. Of course, these are the final runs in Q2. If you're not in the top 10 at the end of this session, you are out and you will not be fighting for pole position. Of course, Julian, the pressure is on him. Of course, he's our championship leader who potentially has a chance of taking the title today. He's been very quick in qualifying in the races so far, but the last couple of rounds, the pressure certainly has gotten to him. As what can Jack West do now? Onto the brakes in towards the final couple of corners. Of course, he would love to be into the top 10. He's currently in it, but not by much at all. Up to the line, can he improve? No. Stays P10. No improvement for him. Next is going to be Alfie Butcher. He's up by just shy of a 10th. He should be safe. He certainly is. He goes quickest. Next, we have Josh Edo for Alpine in a car that doesn't look like an Alpine. It's a very black livery. He's making his way down to the final couple of corners. He should be safe on what he's got currently, but of course, you'd rather be safe than sorry as he makes his way out to the final couple of corners. Can he improve? He can. He goes P6. Then we have the other West Ham livery. It's Jake Benham up by half a tenth in Sector 2. He stays in P7. That could certainly help Josh stay a bit safer. Joris only manages P8. He won't be improving. What can Julian Klaffenbach do? This might be the biggest lap of his season so far. He needs to get through into Q3. He's Duncan Hoffland up into the top 8. Julian does go into P5. He's through into Q3. Jake Benham gets knocked out there by Alvaro Caraton. And did Danny Berejne make his way through? No. P11 there for Danny Berejne. So our two big surprises, I think it's safe to say, Danny and Jake both, and Joris not making it through to Q3.
Yeah, it certainly is. That's absolutely huge. And I mean, Jake's 5-place grid penalty still wouldn't have seen him through. He still wouldn't have made it through anyway. That's a huge shame to see. Benham, Berejne, and then Cruzen as well, who's done well in qualifying recently, knocked out. But we do have the likes of Alfie Butcher. He's an unknown quantity, having not raced this season. Alvaro Caraton finding his way through to Q3. He's not really lit himself up in lights so far this season, nor has Tycho Hardy. So a number of drivers with really, really impressive lap times, and I think this Q3 session is going to be one to watch. I mean, they're split by a tenth and a half. I think it's going to get even tighter in that final session. Certainly one to watch.
Yeah, certainly a very big qualifying session for every driver here tonight. Of course, Ismail Fassi and Otis Lawrence, they need a top 3, top 2 minimum because they want to try and keep their championship titles alive. You've got Thomas Ronhar, who, as always, is so good in qualifying. He, yet again, is going to be a contender. Alfie Butcher, who's also quick, he'll also be there looking to fight for pole. Then you have Julian Klaffenbach, our championship leader. He kind of needs pole tonight because he needs to be exiting this session with at least a big gap over Ishmael and Otis. As I do see, he has a very, very weirdly designed front wing in terms of the fact there's not one there. The game's glitched and he doesn't have a front wing on our view. It's a glitch I haven't came across for a very long time. As can we please see? Oh, it's not Julian, it's Thomas who doesn't have a front wing. And I've got to say, if you can get pole with that, that's something brilliant indeed. I've never seen an F1 car without a front wing. I mean, I don't think, did the old F1 cars have, I don't know, they didn't have front wings, did they? But they had very pointy noses. This thing doesn't, it's flat.
Certainly isn't. Surely you've seen this glitch before. This happens every week for me.
Yes.
In qualifying, never in the race, but in
I've not seen
qualifying,
it for
they always seem
ages.
to strip off a bit of downforce. Yeah, when I was with Dan, I think it was Australia. Every single car had no front wing, and I was going mental because I saw every single car with no front wing. He saw every single car perfectly fine.
Oh.
So I was like, and then I think I saw the safety car come out on circuit as well. So I was just sort of, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Ronhar is going to try and, he's going to increase the downforce. He's going to be quicker down the straights. I think that's fair to say. But the corners he might struggle with on this lap. And, I would be expecting potentially that he's going to be on a scrub set anyway with 10 minutes to go and 2 laps still to be put in. He's the only driver out on circuit. And I don't know whether he's going to dive into the pit lane. Indeed he is. He was just going for a sighter.
Yeah, just goes out, gets a bit of air time. Well, nearly a bit of air time actually on track there as he flew onto the grass and keeps it flat on the grain, but he makes his way back into the pits and no lap time set for him. But yet again, just scrubbing the tyres, going out for a quick little warm-up, and then I'm sure, give it a minute or two, we'll be back out again with everybody else on circuit. But of course, we're going to hand it over to you guys in the chat. Once again, big thank you for you all being here this evening. But we want to know the answer to the big, big question. Who do you think will take pole position? Because for once, we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6, 7 drivers here. I didn't mean to make the joke. That can qualify on pole position. But of course, we want to know what you think. Joseph, who are you going to go for? Because for once, we have a very, very tight contest.
Competitive session, very much so. I've got Ishmael Fassi down, I think. He's been up there in the first 2 sessions, and you still feel like there's more time in his lap. So for me, it's going to be Ishmael Fassi taking that pole position.
That's a fair bet. I mean, listen, I don't like to be, one with bias, but I do like to see a new champion make their way up, especially somebody who's faced a lot of drama over the past couple of years. So I'm going to go for Julian. I think he's got it tonight to go for pole, and then, of course, it's down to that 25-lap race where he has to try and keep on to a top 2. So I think Julian will go for pole. I'm also hoping he does because I think he thoroughly deserves it. As in the chat we can see Dan Brower saying Angelo, very fair bet. I'd love to see Angelo taking his first pole. We have Robert saying Thomas. Once again, it's a bit of a given, isn't it, with Thomas, really? He's always going to be fighting for it. So certainly not a bad prediction. And time to rest, bro. Instead of chatting 6-7, let us know who you think will take pole instead. keep the spamming out of the chat, especially with 6-7. At least spam must be something that isn't cringy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's. I always do it when the chat goes a bit dead. I always try and slip one in there and see what happens. And generally, I get 1 or 2 comments, and it never quite goes the way I want it to. Anyway, none of that tonight. It's tier 1. It's the most important tier of the week. And, well, apart from potentially the console side, if you're interested in the console side. And, well, we've got a full qualifying session here with 7 minutes 48 left in it. And still no times on the board. So it's going to be down to these 2 laps to decide who takes pole position and potentially who wins the race, knowing what overtaking's like around Silverstone.
Yeah, certainly. I think overtaking is not going to be something we get a lot. I think the main thing will be strategy. Because that is a very, very big talking factor around this circuit. I don't know the ins and outs, but all I know is that drivers on the popular strategy will pick quite early and then they'll just save the size to the end. Other drivers will go for the opposite of that and stay up longer so then they can have that offset and push at the end. So you do have two very big contrasting strategies around here, which I hope do create some great action, and hopefully we don't do what Red Bull did in the other league, which was go for a two-stopper. That certainly did not work, especially when that driver was up in the top 4, then finished, I think it was 10th or something, or 11th. So, yes, hopefully we don't see the two-stops here tonight, because I don't think they'll quite work out as the drivers would hope. But Angelo is the first on a lap, making his way through Sector 2 now, through Copse Corner, then down towards Maggots and Beckett's, and of course another driver who would love to get onto pole position. He's been in the top 5, he's been in the top 10 pretty much all the time, but of course every driver wants that pole position, especially their first.
They certainly do. Angelo Hortensio would be buoyed by the fact that he could take pole position here today. Q3 is a great opportunity, and he'll be the first driver to complete the lap even. So he will be provisionally on that pole position, but we'll see who is able to stack up against him. These first laps are important because they might invalidate their second, and Hortensio with a 24.6. I think there's a bit more time to find in that one. Josh Edo is going to go 2/10 slower on that lap. Thomas Ronhar, no front wing for him, but he's actually not quite at the end yet. It's Julian Klaffenbach, 24.9. Otis Lawrence, quickest of all, 2/10 is what he's found on Angelo Hortensio. And Tycho Hardy now around the final couple of corners. He will complete the lap, and it will be a 1 minute 24.916. So slowest of all, but not that much behind Julian Klaffenbach. Fassi goes second. Butcher is going to go into second and steal that off of Ishmael, and Alvaro Caraton will be heading into 9th place. In fact, he remains in 9th. Thomas Ronhar, final couple of corners for him, and he'll be hoping at least for a 24.9, if not a 5/10 improvement. If he wants to really challenge for that pole position, he can set the gauntlet down, and he does. It's even better, 24.368. What a lap there.
Well, I saw his Sector 2 split, and it was about half a tenth quicker than Otis Lawrence, and I thought, he's got it. There's no way he's going to mess up in Sector 3, and he certainly does take that provisional pole. And 24.368 for Thomas Ronhar. I did see a message in the chat saying they guessed Thomas. Well, so far you're looking to have you bet correctly. As yes, a quick thing as well, the point system here is the normal Formula 1 point system. So 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1. So yes, very simple. There's no point making our own one up because it confuses everybody, confuses the drivers, and confuses us here in the commentary box, and that's the last thing that everybody wants. You want commentators that know what they're talking about and not trying to guess on the fly. As Tom Terrespo doesn't seem too happy about Thomas taking pole. Dang it, Thomas. I mean, surely you should be saying, well done, Thomas, not dang it for taking pole. But yes, a 3.68, a very nice lap from him indeed, as everybody now makes their way back into the pit lane, and then it's the final runs of the session. So I think it's safe to say that P6 down were all on a used set. Everybody else on a new set. I think Angelo was on a new set, but I just think he made a mistake there because it's still a competitive time. If it was on used tyres, that would be brilliant.
It certainly would be. 2/10, of course, ahead of Duncan Hoffland, who we suspect is the furthest up driver on the used set of tyres. And, well, he's still... I mean, Angelo's 2.5 tenths off of Thomas Ronhar. It's not that sizable of a gap if you counter into it that he may well have made a mistake. He may well have lost at least 1.5 tenths, 2 tenths, something like that. So there is a lot of opportunity for these drivers in this final run. I think Thomas and Otis and Alfie as well will be safe in the thought that they'll at least be in the top 5. But all the other drivers, including Ishmael, who of course isn't too far off Alfie Butcher, will be hoping for an improvement on the lap. They all will. But the 24.3 set by Thomas Ronhar especially is a gauntlet thrown down to the rest of the field. What can you do in comparison? And, well, at the moment, Ronhar, I think, will be happy with that lap and hoping to find just that little bit more, maybe even just that 100th of a second that will confirm that pole position as the final preparations will get underway for qualifying. The race is set to follow.
Certainly is, as we'll see cars go out in, well, now, because I can see a mechanic squatting down, ready to lift off the jack, and the car can shoot out of the pit lane. It's the 5th car down, I think. Who is it going to be? It is a black car, which I think is Josh Edo, because he had a very, very black car, and it is him. Currently down in P7 on a 124.874. Of course, it means nothing. It's an unrepresentative time because he's on a used tyre, so it might as well have no lap. It really means nothing in terms of what he can set on the board for his final runs. Everybody now making their way out onto circuits, and this is once again very, very big qualifying for Otis, Ishmael and Julian. They're the 3 championship contenders here in this qualifying. Of course, Julian needs to win or finish P2 at least to have a chance at the title. But then Ishmael Fassi, if he finishes 7th and Julian 2nd, then he can stay in contest. And then Otis will need to win that to stay in contest. And so far, those two are doing a very good job over Julian. So we'll have to see what can happen now over the next minute and 2 minutes and a half once they've all set their lap times. And Joseph, once again, you're sticking with your bet of who you think will take pole. I think you guessed, who was it? Was it, oh, I forgot now. Was it Ishmael?
Ishmael. Yeah. I still think Ishmael's got a strong chance. As soon as I said it, I went, I reckon Alfie could have a chance as well.
You go for 2 bets. We'll give you 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go half and half. There we go. I'll put 50 quid on Alfie Butcher, 50 quid on Ishmael Fassi, and hoping that one of them is going to come out on top. I think those two are going to be in prime position, but at the moment, of course, Ronhar and Lawrence are in P1 basically. They're in the prime position. Of course, Lawrence is actually in P2, but they're in the prime position to improve on those laps. They've got no pressure from behind, you would imagine, because of the fact that they set those laps so early on. So you'd imagine there is a lot of time still in them with the degradation of the circuit. This is one of the biggest circuits in terms of just degradation and getting better as it goes on. Degradation is the wrong word, but the real one isn't coming to me. But now, final sector. It's not been a squabble as we've seen a few times this season to get around, and it's going to be, I believe that's Josh Edo starting us off. Indeed it is, for the final qualifying runs of this session. Everyone will make it to the line in time to do their laps, and Josh Edo will be the first one who will come across and hopefully improve on his lap. He's got a 24.8 at the moment, and I'd imagine he's on a new set of soft compound tyres. If he isn't going to improve, then I'd be very, very surprised. And up to the first sector split time, he'll come in just a couple of moments' time after this DRS straight, and we'll see what marker they've got. They've all got a marker between the lap that they're doing now and the lap that they set before, and as the checkered flag is waved, you can see Josh Edo has improved by a 10th in just that first sector.
Certainly. So let's see what Josh can do on this lap. He's the first one who will set the lap time to go for pole position. Of course, you've got Alfie behind him, and then we have Duncan, Thomas, all those following their way through as well. So let's see what Josh can do through sector 2, of course. This section here, Maggots and Beckett's, it's an easy section to get right, but it's difficult to go fast through here and master these couple of corners. Is Josh up in the middle sector? Of course he is, by 3/10. That currently will put him on to a 0.5, but he has got one sector to go to look to try and topple the time of Thomas Ronhart with a 1:24.368. Down in towards the final couple of corners here for Josh Edo. It's a big chicane for him. He needs to get the exit correct. Into the final corner, what can he set on the board? Up to the line, he goes P4, a 4.35 for him. Then we have Alfie Butcher up to the line, he goes into P2. Onto the front row for him, next will be Duncan Hoffland up to the line, he goes P6, a nice lap. Then we have Otis Lawrence, he's looking to go for pole, up to the line, no, he can't take pole position, he will start P2 at minimum as Alvaro Caraton up to P6. Julian Klaffenbach, can he go to pole? Fassi goes pole, Klaffenbach only P6. What about Thomas Ronhar? I don't think he'll take it. I think it's Ishmael Fassi on pole position. Yes, it is. It's Fassi on top, it's Ronhar in second. And those gaps there were so close towards the end. 59 thousandths separating the top two.
Huge qualifying session. We said it was going to be close, and it's the top 4 split by less than a 10th. Josh Edo just outside, and he is just ahead of Julian Klaffenbach by 5 thousandths of a second. Alvaro Caraton, Angelo D'Ortenzio, Duncan Hoffland, and Tycho Hardy round out that top 10. But Ishmael Fassi, of course, my bet for pole, and I was completely solid that he was always going to take that pole position, and he did indeed. Ishmael Fassi up at the top, Thomas Ronhar alongside him on the front row, and Otis Lawrence, who will feel as though he missed out on that final run, in third. This is going to be a great first lap, I think.
It certainly will be. And of course we have to have our restart so we can make our way into the race without any disruptions, and so the drivers don't moan about something being wrong with the lobby. But of course, while we do that, we'll have a quick chat with our sponsors over at Grid Finder and Next Level Racing. And welcome back, everybody, here for WOR Tier 1. We're here for the penultimate round of the season, and here is a look at the calendar. I need to get the new one in, but I forgot to do it on time. Erase round 13 and Bahrain from your mind, because we will not be going to Bahrain on the 27th. We'll be ending the season in Belgium next week on November 20th. So there's 2 rounds to go here. Great Britain and then Belgium. And of course, Spa is a very, very interesting track. Qualifying matters a lot there. The race and being able to overtake matters a lot. For a championship finale, it could actually surprisingly be a good one, because normally you wouldn't think, right, last race of the season, you'd be thinking chaos, so Vegas, Brazil, I don't know, Spain maybe. That's good for overtaking. You wouldn't really put Belgium at the top of your list, would you?
No, certainly wouldn't. I mean, it'll be a great place to have a season finale, I think. Belgium's one of my favourite circuits, and I'm devastated that it's not going to be a constant on next year's game, at least, and next year's calendar. I feel like it's one of those that should just always be on the F1 calendar until basically it's undrivable anymore. But yeah, and it's actually breaking a rule. It's a maximum of 7 kilometers. It's just a touch over 7 kilometers, and well, it'll be those 7 kilometers of lap, and the least laps on the calendar that will decide the season. So it should be very, very good, and not just in that first championship spot, but there's still a lot to fight for everybody else.
Oh, great. I'm sorry if you can hear the game in the background. For some reason, it's making me pick a fan zone car. So I've had to go with McLaren and Piastri just to get the first option so I can get back in. Sorry if you could hear that in the background, guys. Yes, I don't care about last season's results. I didn't race. Oh, dear me. But we'll have a quick look as well at the result from last race. Of course, we was over at Abu Dhabi for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Brilliant race. It was Ist van Pookie who took the win ahead of Keen Godendorp. Of course, one of our reserves. I think it was his 5th race in the season, and he came home in P2. Brilliant for him. And it was Ismail Fassi who took 3rd. He's looking for back-to-back podiums here in WOR Tier 1. And then, of course, we had in 4th place Otis Lawrence ahead of Julian Klaffenbach, our championship leader. Despite a poor Las Vegas, he's still got a top 5 here. Then we had Jan Halliday in P6, a great qualifying into a great race for him. Then we had Jarno Otmir in 7th ahead of Joris Kroesen, Thomas Ronhart and Jake Benham, the full top 10 on the grid. So brilliant to see both Kian and Jan up there. 2 of our reserves, 2 of our... Well, Jan's been here a while, but Kian only really in the top tier of things for the past year. Great to see him on the podium, and yet again proves that just because they're newer to the scene and just because they don't participate in F1 sim racing, they can still be up there with the giants of the scene. I mean, he's got Istvan, Ishmael, Otis and Julian all around him. I mean, you know, it's not like it's a poor grid. He's done brilliant to keep P2 there in that race.
Certainly has done. He's staked a claim for a full-time seat, I think, in F1 Esports next year, and it'll be very good to see if he does so. Another name as well. I mean, it's just there's a lot of drivers who have made their reserve appearances this year that may well have the opportunity to race in F1 sim racing, if not next year, in the coming years. I mean, Angelo D'Ortenzio is one that I've always pushed up as somebody who will make F1 Esports, will probably be at the top if it still exists in a few years' time when he's old enough. But yeah, it'll be very good to see, you know, the new blood coming through. You have the likes of Jarno, who's been there a long time, Nicholas, who's been there a long time. But then the likes of Julian and Angelo give you hope for the future of the drivers of F1 sim racing and the fact that, well, we're in a very good place.
Yeah, certainly. I think there's lots of drivers to go around, and that's why a lot of teams nowadays are getting those development drivers in more than ever, because they want to capture them as quickly. Well, it sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? But, you know, get them as quickly as possible so no other team can come in and yank them for when they're old enough to take part in F1 sim race. And I mean, I think Angelo, it will always be difficult for him in Ferrari because no one's going to get in over Barry and Ishmael Fassi. I think there's probably maybe 2 or 3 drivers in the grid that would get in over those, and you're looking at Jarno, Freddie, you know, and that's probably it. Maybe Thomas, and that's probably about it. So Angelo will always have a difficult time at Ferrari. But Julian, old enough to take part in F1 sim racing now. Brilliant in terms of pace in quality in the race. Kick have obviously lost Brendan Lee as he's retired. That's a seat open. I mean, surely if you're Kick, you're considering having Julian in that second seat alongside Thomas. I mean, if you can replicate the performances he can here, that's going to be a team to be reckoned with. Drivers, standings, and the constructors, which is for the teams the main championship, where all the money that they're trying to win is earned.
Certainly is, and that's why you want the best drivers in your team, of course. And it's been interesting to see that Red Bull, who, I mean, a couple of years ago we touted it as an all-star lineup, Jarno and Freddie. It's been interesting to see that Freddie's not taken part in much, if any, of Tier 1 this season. So we'll be seeing what they're going to be capable of into the next season and the next few seasons, I think. As I'd imagine they'd want to keep that partnership pretty tight knit and pretty close together. We will be going to the race in just a few moments' time, but yeah, it'll be interesting to watch this race. It'll be interesting to watch over the next few years of F1 sim racing. It's one of those things that, whilst it might not be the most exciting, the most explosive scene right now, it's got potential to be huge in the future.
Certainly, I think F1 sim racing grown a lot because of COVID, and I think that kind of underrepresented the growth of the community. I think obviously when everyone was at home, everybody was on the computer playing the games because that's what all they had, and the scene grew massively. And I think that's the reason why it grew so much. I think it wouldn't be. I think the scene would be where it is now, even without COVID. I think it's because it went up. It's had that dip, which makes it look worse. But realistically, if no COVID happened, it would have just been, stalemate and would have slowly rose up over time. So I think we'd probably be in the situation now where we are if we didn't have COVID. I think just COVID made people feel a bit because we lost so much, attention onto the leagues. F1 sim racing at one point used to be on Sky Sports. That was back in, I think, 2017, 2018. Had COVID come along, and then you had all the F1 star races where you had like the F2 and F1 drivers taking part, and of course all that came to a stop. And then, of course, naturally the boost of normal F1 fans in the scene kind of lowered, and then you still had those esports fans there anyway. But yes, a lot of us waffling about the future of esports in the past. We are now making our way onto the start of the race. We're loading into the session, and before we go in, Joseph, you know what I'm going to ask. What are your predictions for the top three?
Good question. I think I'm going to have to throw it back to qualifying and just have a look at who was able to take the top three there, because I think they're going to be the drivers, of course, in prime position, but most likely. I think it's going to be Fassi to Lawrence to Butcher, and then Thomas Ronhar in fourth place. So the top four sort of in the same, well, they're going to be in the same arena. I think the top four should stay in the top four, but I think Thomas is going to drop off that podium, and I think Butcher's going to get a podium on his first race this season.
Yes, certainly. It could definitely be a big chance for him to take a podium. But then also, it'd be great to see what the likes of Angelo can do, trying to work his way up the field. Barry Burman does well in 15th, sorry. That's not where we expect to see him on most occasions. And then, of course, you've got that great mix of drivers in the top 10 all fighting over positions. As we can now see the pit lane once again here around Silverstone, and then hopefully we'll get underway shortly for the Grand Prix, which should be a great one. So don't go anywhere, everybody. Stay here in your seats. Well, maybe go away for a second to grab a drink or something to eat. Come back and then get ready for the 26 laps of action around one of the most iconic circuits, not just in Formula 1, but in racing on a whole. As PDAL says, I think Julie must be 15 or 16. He needs to be 16 to take part. I'm sure he's turning 17 this year or next year. I know he's over 16, but I don't know how far he is away from being 17. But yes, we haven't got long to go. Joseph, I'll throw over to you to take off the start.
Thank you very much. Well, we will be seeing the drivers taking to that start in just a few moments' time, and we'll be getting underway for the penultimate round of this WOR Tier 1 season. It's been a great one. It'll be the only season that we get on F1 25, and we'll get the opportunity to see every single one of these drivers in action one more time next week at Belgium. Great Britain is the host of the race here today. Of course, the host, my home race. I'm based relatively near Northampton most of the time, so it's a circuit that I've been to multiple times now, and it's always a very good one to see. It might not be the most exciting in terms of on-track action, but there are still overtaking opportunities. There's still pit stop strategy opportunities, It's one of the slowest. You go 37 miles per hour, or I believe it's 50 kmh. I have to be honest, I don't play this game. I don't play this game at all, but I don't play this game in kilometers per hour when I am on it. So it's not necessarily going to be 50k, but I believe it is. And then you'll be heading down that pit lane for an incredibly long time. So it'll be a one-stop, pretty much nailed on, especially when they raced in the practice league yesterday. A two-stop did not seem to be the strategy to go onto, and the drivers now preparing for a different strategic race. They've got the data, they've done the analysis, and it looks like, I believe, I'd imagine as well, that the majority of the drivers up at the top will be on the mediums. Everyone else will be on the hards because they want to get off to the best possible start. Those on the hards will want to fight their way forward. We will get to have a look in 5 lights time. The lights are on, the drivers are ready. And the action is underway. Thomas Ronhaar gets off to a good launch, and he's going to try and pull alongside Fassi, but into the first corner, Fassi is going to be able to stay ahead of the Kick Sauber as we head through to turn number 3. Is Lawrence going to have any challenge on Ronhaar, who goes to the inside line? Not quite yet. On the outside is going to be Klappenbach. That's somebody end plate off. In the background, Josh Ito fighting with Alfie Butcher. Butcher stays ahead in 4th, and it looks like they're going to filter out through with Fassi in the lead. Thomas Ronhaar in 2nd. That's going to be very wide from Rens Thomason at the back of the field, and it's actually going to be 4 wide at the back of the field for the 2 V-Cubs and the 2 Red Bulls. And it's going to be the 2 V-Cubs that come out on top in that one. The 2 Red Bulls just in behind, but yeah, it's going to be Fassi leading off at the start.
Certainly, and it was damage there for Julian Klappenbach. Big scenes here on lap 1. Julian with a very low chance now of taking a podium, never mind a P2 or P1. That could potentially take the championship into the final round of the season, where Ismail Fassi and Jarno Opmeer can look to go on the charge as we make our way through Maggots and Beckett's, as that's Shanika Clay making a move on Fabrizio Donoso. Jumps up into 18th place. Fab down in 19th, not being a good start for him, as Ruben Pedreño now looks to make a move around the outside in towards Stowe Corner. Has to back out, can't quite find the move there as we look further ahead. Barry Burman now on the charge. Of course, got past Jack West and Jake Benham on lap 1. Heading on to lap 2, he has 2 Aston Martins to contend with as we make our way out of the final corner. Lap 2 commences. It's Ismail Fassi that leads. It's Ronhaar 2nd, with Lawrence in 3rd.
Yeah, it's a good start from Fassi and Ronhaar. Otis Lawrence not quite within range, 6/10 back, but with the DRS he'll be hoping to close that in, as Ronhaar will be hoping to close in the lead and maybe even take it as Angelo D'Ortenzio tries to challenge Klappenbach, who of course picked up that wing damage. Ronhaar on the inside, but he's not going to be going for an aggressive move just yet. Is Angelo D'Ortenzio thinking any differently? Not quite yet. Everybody sort of trying to filter through in the early stages, apart from Thomason and Pedreño. They're at the back of the field, so it's unsurprising that the Williams and the V-Cub are fighting as hard as they can. They're both on a set of the hard compound tyres. Everybody in the top 9 is on a set of the mediums, and only Fabrizio Donoso from 10th down is on a set of the medium compounded tyres. Everyone else is on the hards, and so they'll be trying to stretch that stint very long. I've got the AWS pit strategy on my screen, which is telling me that they're all on soft compound tyres and they're going to be making a two-stop strategy. That's not the case. I mean, that's wrong already on lap number 2, and that's a great start for the graphics. But yeah, Ismail Fassi leading, and it will be leading into lap number 3 as Ronhaar creeps ever closer.
Certainly, and those other mediums will be pitting as early as possible, to the point of where the hards can go to the end. Just say the hards can go to the end from lap 9, they'll pit lap 9 because they'd rather that pit early, get that undercut, jump ahead of everybody else, have that gap to those who are on the hards, and then just save to the end. It makes it a lot easier than staying out longer and longer and then going on to that harder compounded tyre towards the end. It's just not going to work as much. So get ready to see some very early undercuts. If you see people pitting on lap 8 or lap 9, do not be surprised as we head in towards the loop and Aintree at turn 4 and 5, and once again Thomason and Pedreño having a battle in towards turn 4, and we have Fabrizio Donoso closing in as well. He just can't make any impact. It's not been a good start for him in that Red Bull on the medium set of tyres compared to those around him on the hards, as we head back in towards turn 7 at Brooklands. Around the outside here for Pedreño, looking to make a move, looks to dart it to the inside at Luffield. Next will be Woodcuts, and can the move be completed here by the Williams? They're going to be side by side down to Copse Corner, and a brilliant camera angle, and that move looks to be done for Ruben Pedreño, who moves up into 17th. As we go back up to the leaders, it's Lawrence now on the back of Ronhaar, and the last lap it was the other way around. It was Ronhaar on the back of Fassi. Now Lawrence is looking to make a move.
He is. He's 4/10 back on Thomas Ronhaar, and well, he's not quite had the opportunity to do so. Alfie Butcher 5/10 back, so there's not really any pressure coming from the McLaren behind. And so Otis Lawrence can just look ahead. It'll be lap number 4 in just a moment's time. And Ismail Fassi continues to lead, as he has done the whole race so far. And it looks like he's set to continue. He's got a steady pace going on here. Thomas Ronhaar is, I think he's chopping and changing. He's going a little bit quicker in some segments, a little bit slower in others. So I think he's got a case of, he's got a different strategy in terms of setup wise. I think he's going a little bit more for the corners, which is why he appears to be getting closer. But when it actually comes to the overtaking opportunities, he's not quite got the overspeed. He's hoping for that DRS to pull him through, which so far it hasn't quite done so yet. And well, he's going to remain 2/10 off the back of Fassi as he pulls out of the slipstream once again to get those extra miles per hour in the car. So the Kicksauber playing a patient game, and he's going to have to win this one on strategy.
Certainly, as we did see there, Shabakoni looking on the back of Joris Krozen, who didn't have the best start at all. He's dropped down to 15th here on the opening lap, and he's going to have to try and work his way back up into the top 10 as back up to the front. The top 3 stay as they are, and these are probably the 3 quickest drivers in this race on the whole. They are brilliant, these 3, and they lead the way, and there's going to be so, you know, the battling is going to be so intense on those last few laps when they're battling for that win. As Shanaka Clay makes a move ahead of Renz Thomas, and that was through Maggots Beck. It's a brilliant move there by Shanaka, who's just trying to get something in this race. It hasn't gone well for him so far, but at least he can get an overtake and get something done. He moves up into 18th. There's more battling at the rear than there is at the front of the field here so far as we look to begin lap 5 shortly, and it's still the same top 5 as it has been all race long. And I've got to say, brilliant start here by Alvaro Caraton up in towards P6. Brilliant for him and the Williams to be up in the mid part of the top 10, a driver we don't often see nowadays in the top 10. So a great result, for a great drive from him so far. But then again, I know Silverstone is a track he's normally quite good at when it comes to the race.
And you'll have drivers who have those. I mentioned this, I think, at the start of Q1. You'll have drivers who have those specialist circuits, and even if they can just eke out maybe a 1/10 of a second, maybe 2/10, it can be absolutely huge. Because if you eke out a 1/10 of a second over the course of 10 laps, that's an entire second you've gained, which at this level is an absolutely humongous gap that you've been able to get. Just for reference, on that front, a second would put, for example, Alfie Butcher, it would put him in the lead of this race. So yeah, it's a huge amount of time that you've been able to gain. And speaking of 2/10 of a second, Thomas Ronhaar is just in behind Ismail Fassi. He was as close as he's ever gotten, and now through Maggots Beckett on the exit with the DRS, he's going to hope to maybe try and make the overtake.
Certainly, this is closing in, but I don't think it'll be quite enough down towards Stowe unless he goes for a lunge, and I don't think he'll do that. There's absolutely no point going for a lunge there. So in P2 stays Thomas Ronhaar. Let's have a look here at Duncan Hoffman, because I think give it 2 or 3 laps, his pace will start to pick up, just because those on the mediums will start to slow down and that tyre wear will start to affect them. So then Duncan, Danny, Barry could start to push forward and make a couple of moves on the back of those at the bottom part of the top 10 on the medium tyres as we head back into turn 1 at Aberdeen to Farm Curve and then down towards Village. So these are the hards, they have to always bide their time. The first couple of laps you kind of get swamped if you've got mediums behind you, and if not, you're just kind of stuck where you are and you just have to deal with those being a little bit quicker for those first few laps. But I think it's on Duncan will start to push forward and start thinking about making a move ahead of Tygo Hardy, who sits in 9th.
Speaking of thinking about making a move, Thomas Ronhaar is all over the back of Fassi and tried for a late lunge on the inside line into the last couple of corners. I say the last couple of corners because he did, and it up to Stowe now. He's trying to take that advantage, maybe just every single corner that he's trying to take, he's trying to get the better exit and get the run on Fassi, but because he's pulling out of the slipstream, it's ruining his run really. As slightly further down, Alvaro Caraton getting as close to Josh Edo as he's ever been and almost tapping the back of the Alpine through Maggots Beckett. This might be the opportunity that the Williams has been waiting for to get up into the top 5, and well, he's got much better tyre wear on his car as the swap for the lead of the race has happened eventually. Thomas Ronhaar makes his way through on Ismail Fassi, and the Ferrari will be hoping to get back through soon. I don't mind the hard compound tyres at the start of this race. It feels like it would have made sense for at least somebody in the top 9 to have gone for the hards, stayed with the pack like those hard runners have, and then tried the overcut strategy at the very least.
Certainly, but I suppose they just want to go for the strategy that works the best, and they'd rather sometimes not take that extra risk by going for those halves in the top 10. If you know everybody else is on the mediums, just go for the safe option and go for the mediums. As we head out of the first sector once again, and still Ronhar leads. Of course, that was probably positioning, getting ready for the pit stops. If he has the lead, then he's the first one to enter the pit lane. That's probably what that would have all been about there for him, taking the lead of the race. As of course, the race on lap 6, so it's not like he would have done it for some sort of advantage in terms of track position for winning the race. As Ismail Fassi P2, Lawrence still in third. He's just hanging back. He's fine where he is in third spot, just keeping Alpha Butcher at bay and staying on the back of Ismail Fassi. And I've got to say, the weather's looking rather dark, but being as we've seen cars on the hards, that tells me that I don't think that will get anywhere, which is unfortunate. It'd be nice to see a bit of rain, make the race a bit interesting, but I think as the way it seems, it's going to be dry all the way out.
Certainly looks like it. I want to go back to the point that you made about Thomas Ronhar being the lead, being the decider of the pit stop strategies. I think it makes sense for Ismail Fassi to tuck back into second place, because then he can basically follow Ronhar. He can match Ronhar, so he's able to stay in the DRS all the time, as that's our first driver into the pit lane. Alfie Butcher makes his way in, and as does a couple other drivers actually. This appears to be the pit time for Josh Edo, Alvaro Caraton and Julian Klaffenbach, all into the pit lane on lap number 8 of this race. They'll be switching over to the hards for the remainder of the British Grand Prix, and those four taking it earlier than the others, so they will be out in prime position in terms of, in comparison to like Ronhar and Fassi and Lawrence, and they will be hoping that they're going to be able to hold on to that advantage despite the one lap disparity.
Certainly, and they all now make their way out of the pit lane. Leading the train will be Alfie Butcher. Then we have Josh Edo, Alvaro Caraton, and then at the back of that train, Julian Klaffenbach, who of course has damage but chose not to fix his wing in the pits, which tells us that damage isn't too severe on his kick saber, so he'll continue on in 20th. He's trying to warm up the tyres, ready for this second stint. Of course, as we said, the earlier they can pit, the earliest they will. So that means they'll just, push now, and they'll probably save the tyres towards the end, because they're not going to be able to push all the way now for the next 18 laps of this race. And then I'm sure we'll see the top 5 in as well quite shortly. And then, of course, 6th down to 15th, all on the hard tyres. They're going to wait another maybe 6 or 7 laps before they choose to head into the pit lane. And then, of course, mediums for those guys all the way to the end. As Ronhar's in, Ismail Fassi's in, Lawrence stays out, D'Ortenzio stays out, and so does Tiger Harding. Ismail Fassi takes a 10-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. So now that's his chance of a top 3 over, potentially his chance of a top 10 over.
Yeah, devastating for Ismail Fassi. That's going to really, really throw his race pretty much into the bin because of how close it was. And because he's gone for that 1 lap longer, he's going to not even have the track position that he would have wanted. But he's still going to fight for it, you would imagine, towards the end of this race, in the hope that maybe he might be able to get it removed, or he's just going to fight for it on circuit, because why not? That could have huge implications in the championship. Of course, he is one of the main contenders for Klaffenbach, and the Kick Sauber will have seen that and very much enjoyed it, but he won't enjoy the fact that Fassi is now ahead of him on the circuit. There's 2 drivers in between them, and Klaffenbach isn't in the DRS range.
No, and that's hurt Julian. He lost it by, I think, half a tenth. As soon as that happened, he's stuck there in 20th. He's going to have to push in this middle sector here to try and keep within a second of Alvaro Caraton, but you can see in the corners that's where he struggles. He's just not got as much downforce because of that damage, and it understeers the car out and just loses him a heap of time as he's looking to press back within a second now. And he is within a second, but of course he needs to be comfortably within a second and able to try and make an impact here and go for some overtakes. As we do see Otis Lawrence still lead the way. He's staying out again. He's going long here on this stint as D'Ortenzio stays out along with Hardy. And then everybody else on the hards not yet going for a pit stop. They'll stay out as long as they possibly can. But going for that 1 lap overcut has worked here for Thomas Ronhar. He now has a better tyre than Alfie Butcher and has the lead of the race provisionally.
Yeah, does hold that lead of the race as it stands. Otis Lawrence 3 seconds ahead of Angelo D'Ortenzio, which is a huge gap that he's trying to hold, as that's Duncan Hoffland trying to make a move on Tycho Hardy now as the hard switch to the better tyre, and it's the proof's in the pudding. Alfie Butcher, fastest lap of the race. Hoffland continuing to chase Tycho Hardy. He knows that this move is very important. He doesn't want to get held up in the medium train too much, which of course is only 2 drivers strong with Otis Lawrence 3 seconds up, but it's just very much a case of Duncan Hoffland hoping that he's going to be able to get the opportunity to make his way through and not lose as much time as he can. It's risk minimization, and so that's why he's trying to make his way through. Not had the opportunity yet, so it might be in the next DRS zone where he tries to make his next lunge.
Certainly, as I think we'll see Tycho Hardy in the next lap. You'd be surprised if he stayed out again, because that'd be very long on the mediums, going on to the hards up until the end. Of course, look at how quick that gap has come down from Ron Hart to Dano, so it was 16 seconds originally, it's now 11, and that's in a couple of laps. So brilliant job by those in that hard train at the back, trying to just close that gap down to those who are yet to pit. Does anybody in the top 3 pit again? No, they all stay out longer. They're going for a big offset now. They know there's no point going for a 2-lap offset. We need to go larger. We need to go bigger on the offset. So that's what they're doing. They're staying out longer, and they'll just pick with those on the hards as we head back down towards turn 1. Hoffland now all over the rear of Tycho Hardy, but I don't think he'll be yet here looking to make a move unless he goes to the inside in towards turn 3. He's got up the inside, he takes a position, and because of the tyres, there's no fight back at all there from the Haas on the mediums.
Yeah, no fight back from Tycho. I don't think he was capable of any fight back as Ismail Fassi, fastest lap of the race. He is trying to fly through the remainder of these 15 laps on this circuit. Otis Lawrence still holds that lead. Duncan Hoffland looks like he's going to be the first challenger for it, but you've still got the likes of Thomas Ronhaar pushing forward. He's the leader of that hard compound tyre pack, but Fassi was the quickest of it last time out, and of course all 6 of them within DRS range of each other. The only driver without that DRS is Ronhaar, who is the leader of that pack. Surprised to see Lawrence, D'Ortenzio and Hardy going that long, Donoso as well, but of course he's right at the back of the field. So I mean, those mediums, they've been stretched very, very long, but you can see they'll be stretched this long, so it provides an opportunity for those hard runners to maybe consider an undercut.
Certainly, we'll have to see what they want to do on their strategy as we continue on, and the gap now between Ronhaar and Donoso is 10.6. It's came down by another second on these laps, which just shows there's going to be more and more work to do for those who are now on the hards looking to switch over to the mediums for the end of the race. As again, well, it isn't a battle, it's just because Tycho Hardy is going into the pit lane. He chose to go now onto the hards, and we'll still have Angelo D'Ortenzio lead that train with Duncan Hoffland behind, and then Otis Lawrence still 3 seconds up the road. A brilliant job by Otis so far just to keep that consistent gap as we make our way back down towards turn 4 and 5 with him as the net leaders, and just making their way down towards turn 1, and they'll be miles ahead now of Tycho Hardy. He'll be nowhere near them as they head down towards turn number 3.
No, it won't be. That's a shame for Tycho, but he knows that he's going to have that pace advantage with that 4-lap offset to maybe try and climb his way in, but with that DRS problem that he's got now, the 5.5 seconds is going to be very hard to breach, although Caraton and Klaffenbach 9/10 back on the competitor in front, so they might drop out of it naturally, and that would be absolutely huge for their races, and it could be very race ruining as well. As soon as you drop out significantly. As we saw with Klaffenbach out of the pit lane, he was half a tenth back, and suddenly he found himself 5/10 back after the DRS. With 2 zones here around this circuit, it really ramps up the pressure to remain in it, and of course the overtaking opportunities that come straight after them are the biggest overtaking opportunities on the circuit, and they're not going to take full advantage of it. Otis Lawrence in, Angelo D'Ortenzio is going to stay out for another lap, so we'll see the Mercedes lead the race, but surely not for long with both the Aston Martins chasing.
Indeed, Angelo going for a very long offset here, but then again we sometimes see that happen. They'll go for something very different. We've seen it with Jarno Opmeer. On many occasions he stays out really late and goes for a stop, and you think, ooh, maybe it's too late for him to fight it back, but he always does. I'm sure Angelo will be looking to do the exact same here in this race as Otis now. Where does he come out? As we can see our leaders now, our net leaders making their way through into turn 1. They all follow through, and I think Otis should get out ahead of Tycho Hardy quite comfortably. But then, of course, he's got to catch up to the back of Julian Klaffenbach. And what is the gap as he exits the pits? That's going to be easy for him to catch there. A second, and he's back within DRS on 5-lap fresher tyres. Otis Lawrence here could be on for a very competitive strategy, of course. he'll get within a second, I'd say, by lap 14, 15 at the latest, and then it's about looking to make some moves and push your way forward. I think for him, you know, at minimum, get ahead of Josh Edo, I think, because he was up in first. I think he knows Ishmael, Alfie and Thomas will be difficult to contest against, but realistically, he should be able to get through on a damaged Julian, and then Alvaro and his teammate, Josh Edo.
Yeah, a damaged Julian, who's going to be surely pushing to remain within that DRS of Alvaro Caraton at the moment. He almost ducked just outside of it, but was able to just remain 0.88 in behind by the time the detection zone rolled around again. So Claffinbox struggling. Lawrence has gained 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second. That's an unbelievable exit out of Maggots for Otis Lawrence, which means that he will get DRS down the next straight. Absolutely huge in terms of his race chances, as that is finally Angelo D'Ortenzio into the pit lane, almost at the point where the pit window for the hard compound tyres opens.
Certainly, and I thought for a moment there Angelo was going to speed in because he flew into that pit lane, but luckily stopped the car in time as we make our way through out of the final corner to begin lap 14 of 26. Toko Hardy goes with the fastest lap, and Otis Lawrence is now within a second of Julian Claffinbox, so he'll be looking to make some quick moves now, get ahead of Julian, then Alvaro and Josh, and see if he can start to look at picking off Ishmael Fassi. As where did Angelo come out? He's going to be 5-6 seconds back from Otis Lawrence. That's going to be difficult to catch, but he's got that offset over those. As Otis has made the move already on Julian. Brilliant. As I was going to say, because Otis will be caught up in this train here of Thomas Ron hard down, that should allow Angelo to catch up quickly. But if it carries on the way it's going, Otis might be leading the train by the time Angelo catches up.
Easiest move of Otis Lawrence's life, that, just getting the exit out of the corner and then down the straight with DRS. He was able to make his way through and already into the DRS of Caraton, so his pace advantage is looking so incredibly strong, and he's going to try and make his way past Caraton and Edo even as soon as the end of lap 15. I think that's going to be the target for them, as Ishmael Fassi tries to fight with Butcher and then slows them down as well. So Otis Lawrence is not that far off from being a prime contender for this race victory, despite going longer on this tyre, on the medium compounded tyre. What he's been able to do is he's been able to get a 5-lap advantage, which out of all of the corners is providing him so much. So much, in fact, that he's already out of the DRS of Claffinbox as they head on to the next lap, and with the fastest lap to boot, he is looking very, very flashy. Alvaro Caraton, the next target up, but he's certainly not looking unassailable for Lawrence at the moment.
Certainly, and I think because the top 10 are yet to pit on their strategy, Julian's lost DRS from the main train and is down in 17th. I don't think Julian will score points today, because so Julian's in net 7th at the moment. There's going to be at least 5 of those cars that will pass Julian, as now Otis looks to make the move ahead of Alvaro Caraton, and he does, up into P15 there for Otis. But Julian here might be a lack of points. Ishmael Fassi also without scoring points. This is such an opportunity now for Otis Lawrence, potentially. If he can take the win, or P2, he can charge up the field and have a chance to fight for it in the final round of the season.
He certainly could do. The championship is very much not over, especially with Claffinbox struggling in this race. The damage in turn 2 that he picked up could be crucial, and well, at the moment it's just looking very much like these drivers still hanging in it. Otis Lawrence did not have any hopes of a championship fight just a couple of rounds ago, but now he very much does, and he's going to go for it on Josh Edo, and he's going to get through P14 for Otis Lawrence, and he's still in the DRS of Fassi, and you'd imagine that pace advantage he'll be through even by the end of next lap. It's the start of the pit window for the hard compound tyre runners. West Cruzen, Benham, Burremand and Thomason all diving in for a set of the mediums to take them to the last 10 laps.
And now the question is, what can they do? What impact can they make on those opening couple of laps? Once Barry Burremand exits the pits, I want to see his gap to Julian and see how quickly he brings, well, Angelo, and we'll see how quickly he brings it down. So the gap at the moment is 3.3 seconds, 3.5 we'll say. By the end of the next lap, I reckon by the end of this lap, I reckon he'll be within 1.5 seconds potentially, because once he's got those tyres warmed up, as that's Otis Lawrence going for a move. That was scary. It could have been the camera angle, but oh my, I thought for a moment that could be Ishmael Fassi off the circuit, but no. He stays ahead for now, and Otis is on a charge. He wants to make these moves early. Is he going to go for it into cops? No. I wish he did. That would have been brilliant.
Certainly would have. We've not seen any dives into there, but we have seen a few dives into the corner where Otis Lawrence tried it, and he may well try it again on the exit of Maggots and Beckett's. He's got the grip. He's definitely got the overspeed out of the corner. Get it braked early. Get it turned in early. Get the power down early, and so you can get the run on the Ferrari, and that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's tucked into the slipstream of Ismail Fassi. He's not close enough. And so he's going to have to try and make the overtake again on a following lap. Hoffland and Zabo Konyi both into the pit lane. So these drivers are starting to form what will be less provisional, more real race positions. And they'll hope at the end of this one that it's going to be the opportunity for them to fight for the race victory. And at the moment, Barajde, Pedreño and Clay well, they're the only barriers in what could be the actual fighters. That's a late lunge from Otis Lawrence to lock up to scare Ismail Fassi. Not quite close enough. He's going to try and send it around the outside on the exit of the corner. He's got the run out of both of them. Ismail Fassi has defended perfectly out of both of them. And Otis looking for the switchback, but hasn't quite got the run. The DRS will aid him, and he will be right in the slipstream. Ishmael defends to the inside. Otis tried it on the inside last lap, has decided to go for the outside. Ishmael squeezes him so very tight, but Otis has been able to get the run, and the grip aids him in making that position. But what a defence that was from Fassi. Otis Lawrence has breached those defences, though, and he's up to 6th.
Certainly a great move by Otis. He needed to get that one done quickly, and now he can focus on Butcher and Ronha, who sit 2 positions ahead of him. This is a battle for 4th, but of course Barajde, Pedreño and Clay have to pit in this race. So we'll say pit it'll be P1 Ronha, P2 Butcher and P3 Otis Lawrence. And let's have a look here at Barry Burman, currently in P13. He's gained a second and a bit on Angelo D'Ortenzio since last lap, so maybe I was a bit exaggerating when I said he'd gain a couple of seconds in a lap, but I really thought he'd bring that gap down a lot quicker than he did. But then again, Angelo's also brought that gap down to Julian by a couple of seconds, so you know it's definitely came down quickly to that main train as we head into the final couple of corners, and Barry looking to put the pressure on. And then of course behind him is Jake Benham and Duncan Hoffland, who are also just keeping with him. Let's see, where does Ruben Pedreño come out here in this one? I think he'll be way away from the train. Yes, he's going to be nowhere near, is he? And I think that has just not worked here for him. Him and Shanaka have not had the best race. He's definitely not representative of what they can achieve, because normally we see them in the top 10 or fighting for it. And today they're at the back of the field. As Angelo makes a move ahead of Julian, and Julian now, points are looking scarce for him, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to pick up any points at all. By the way, that was a very cool camera angle in the Ruben Pedreño thing. Shame that it happened when we couldn't actually see him in the pit lane. But, I mean, it is what it is. Klaffenbach is about to be swallowed up, I think, by this medium by this medium group. Barry Burman will have DRS on the next time around. And so, the Ferrari is going to be in with an opportunity. That's Otis Lawrence getting through on Alfie Butcher, but Butcher defending Otis on the outside of Beckett and trying to make his way through. And he is going to try and get the run out of the exit. He did, but Butcher is going to defend this one for his life. The inside line for Otis Lawrence.
Oh, there's contact!
Runs over the curbing, there's contact between the two. Alfie Butcher's been sent wide, and Otis Lawrence forces his way through on the McLaren, and that was a huge, huge moment.
That certainly was. Contact there between Butcher and Lawrence, who go through into second, and Butcher drops down to net P5, P4 because of the penalty for Ismail Fassi. Well, that could be podium. Bye-bye for Alfie Butcher. What a shame for those two. They went side by side, they went for risky moves, and in the end, Otis comes out on top, and there's only one car now for him to contend with, and it's Thomas Ronha. These two have had a past. They've had a history of battling, not always ending in the best ways. So we'll have to see how this one will go as they make their way in towards Brooklands Corner. 7 laps to go in this race, and already Burman ahead of Klaffenbach. He's now on a charge. He's going to be looking to get ahead of D'Ortenzio, and then he's got an 8-lap offset to those ahead from P6 upwards, but also he's got the softer compound of tyre, so he'll be flying on the back of these guys, as we do see Julian. I think he's given up. What a shame to see our championship leader has given up on lap 19 of 26. And well, what a story this could be heading into the final round.
Absolutely huge for Julian Klaffenbach. That's going to tighten up the championship so much, and it's actually going to swing it away from his favour because he won't have that momentum heading into the final couple of rounds, as Barry Burman certainly has the momentum in this race. He's going to try and catch up to D'Ortenzio. This is why a split strategy race is so very good, because whilst the drivers behind are on the harder compound of tyre to start with, when they're on the mediums they can absolutely fly, and that's exactly what Barry is showing at the moment. They've flown their way through the first few drivers in the pack, and they're going to try and continue to do so. Burman in the DRS of Angelo D'Ortenzio, 8/10 back on the Mercedes, as that is going to be Klaffenbach confirmed out of the session, the first driver out of it, and well, that is going to spice up the championship. Fastest that for Shanika Clay, who's right at the back of this field, as that is going to be that's going to be. Is that a laps car? Is that Julian Klaffenbach there, or is that going to be Angelo D'Ortenzio? Yeah, Angelo D'Ortenzio, I think, having a little bit of desync there as he tried to go for a move on Tycho Hardy.
Yeah, a bit of contact between the two, and it was a ghost there for Angelo, who emerges back in P8 as he looks for the move again on the back of Tycho Hardy, but I don't think he's going to close in just enough to make a move, and he pretty much lets Barry through there. I think that's a little bit coordinated potentially. I think it was. As through goes Barry. And now on the back of Angelo will be Jake Benham looking to make a move, and I think once again will be an easy move. Angelo is not going to fight it because there's no point unless he does try and fight it. He does in towards Maggots and Beckett, and he keeps ahead of Benham for now as they head through in towards Chapel Corner, and Jake will be looking to get the battery burnt, get that DRS open and make a move down towards Stowe. There's also closing in on Jake is Duncan Hoffland as Jake closes in, but not enough to make a move, and Angelo keeping him at bay for now.
Yeah, at the moment at least, Angelo D'Ortenzio is fighting for this one. Why wouldn't you? With 6 laps to go, you're holding 9th place. You've got the DRS on Barry Burman. Whilst it might not be an ideal situation, you may as well just fight for points at this point in time. And he's ahead of Jake Benham, who I think will go for a move into the next braking zone, which is, of course, not turn 1. That's a lift, but it'll be into the next one. But Benham not close enough. And so it's going to be the DRS straight that I think is going to make his next opportunity, unless it's outside line here. No, but he's trying to get the run out of the corner. Angelo slow on the apex, and that's going to allow the run for Jake Benham with that Diari Buraman. So he's not got the same luxuries, and it's the outside line for Benham as he tries to sweep his way through. It's such a long corner that you feel as though you're side by side forever. Angelo squeezed out. That might open the door for Duncan Hoffland as well. He tucks in for the moment, but the Aston Martin looking racy on the back. And this is going to be the first move into Stowe that we will see all race long. He's done it before, so the answer is a firm no.
Certainly, he's off the track. There goes Jack West, but temporarily he rejoins behind Angelo, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and get through and jump up into the top 10 potentially himself. Of course, Jack has been here on a few occasions this season and would love to be in that top 10 as now Barry Burman closing in on the back of Tycho Hardy. Will it be a send? Tycho moves over, he acknowledges that Barry's there, but I don't think once Barry catches up that there's going to be much here that Tycho can do. As Danny Barrage makes a move ahead of Joris Kroos, and the two Mercedes battling further back. Angelo and Jack in towards the chicane. Through goes Jack West, and Angelo drops down to 12th place, and then we can see Danny Barrage eyeing up a line out of the final corner potentially to strike at turn 1, as here is Borman. He's looking for a move potentially down to turn 3 here to get ahead of Tycho Hardy. He goes to the inside. It's a send from the Ferrari on the Haas. There's a slight bit of contact, and I think that's move done for Barry Borman. Next on the list, it's Alvaro Caraton.
Yeah, Alvaro Caraton next on the hit list for Barry Burman, and he's going to try and get the run, but 3/10 back. He's not going to be anywhere near close enough at this point in time. Nobody really is on anybody else apart from Jake Benham on Hardy. Is he going to take the opportunity? He's on the inside, Tycho, just taking the racing line, ignoring Jake Benham's presence, and so Jake wasn't able to make his way through. But you'd imagine that soon the McLaren is going to find its way through on the Haas, and it's not quite going to be yet, especially with Duncan Hoffland sniffing at the back of the Britain. So Jake Benham's got a couple of things to think about here, and into Maggots and Beckett's. Hoffland's going to pull alongside. Benham is forced to give him the space, and it's going to get very, very tight between these two. Rubbing is racing, and there's a bit of contact, and it's rinse and repeat. That's Duncan Hoffland with a bit of a moment. Contact with Jake Benham. They both drop down. Hoffland has it worse.
Indeed, and then we have a battle between Lawrence and Ron Haar into the final couple of corners. Ron Haar sends it to the outside. Lawrence takes the lead of the race. Ron Haar's looking for the up and under in towards the final corner. But it's Otis Lawrence that takes the lead. We missed that one on our screens, but for a moment it seemed like Otis was potentially on the curb, on the grass. heading out of Stowe corner, but Lawrence leads now ahead of Ronhart. But the question is, with those older tyres, what can Ronhart do to fight back?
Not 100% sure that he's going to have anything to fight back with apart from the DRSs. That's Berejne and Tycho Hardy fighting. Ido and Butcher also fighting. Ido making his way through, and Butcher into 5th place now as Hardy drops behind Berejne down to 9th, and Berejne up to 8th. So the medium runners are really making an impact.
There's contact in towards Brooklands.
That's a huge moment.
Indeed, and Lawrence now in the lead, but I think one of them has damage. Ronhar's into second. Ishmael Fassi looking to get into second himself. Who has got damage? I can't quite see. Lawrence comes away unscathed, but it's the kick Sauber with that right end plate missing. Thomas Ronhart, damage after contact into Brooklands corner. And dear me, with 3 laps to go, I said these two have history, and it's certainly showing here. With 3 laps to go, Lawrence leads without damage, Ronhart second with damage, and Ishmael Fassi third with a 10-second time penalty.
Absolutely huge. Ishmael Fassi also caught in the incident, had to emergency brake to avoid those two, but they have they've come together, and you can imagine that from Lawrence and Ronhart, such tight races. These two might come together as well, as they're very tight through the final couple of corners, Ido and Butcher, but Ido cuts off Butcher's line into the final corner, or into the final braking zone at least, and Ido stays ahead. He's 2.6 off the back of Fassi as they're going to try and create the opportunity. Cruiser retires from the session with just a couple of laps to go. That's a shame from the Haas, who dived into the pit lane, but just a few laps to go, and it feels as though Otis Lawrence may well have, that contact may well have worked out well for him, because Ronhart with that damage, Fassi with the penalty, as that's going to be Barry Burremand trying to make his way through, and Alvaro Caraton. Potentially contact between those two as well as Caraton onto the grass. Little bit of traction loss, and Barry Burremand remains ahead for now. This invites Danny Berejne to the inside line. Can he break his way through? He's on the outside to the next corner, and that's the preferred line through here, and he does make that move. Caraton keeps his tyre in, but he hasn't got the grip, and actually Berejne looks at the inside line of Burremand. So the two medium runners potentially going to be fighting on the circuit. They're going to be squabbling when they really need to work together.
Certainly, and Burremand now into P6, Berejne up into 7th, who's all over the back of the Ferrari as they head into Maggots and Beckett. Same goes here for Alfie Butcher, all over the back of Josh Ido, as Thomas Ronhart might have lost DRS. He's just about got it, but next lap I think it could be DRS over for Ronhart with that damage. But is Alfie Butcher going to go for the move? No, he stays back in P5 for now as we look further behind. Jake Benham closing in on the back of Tycho Hardy. Could he look for a move in towards the chicane? He's got to go to the inside. He's got to go for the send. He's got to commit through the corner. He's going to have to go for the up and under. He can't quite do that, so he stays in P10 as we look further ahead. Barry Burrman now under pressure from Danny Berejne, who's on 3-lap fresher tyres.
Certainly is. The two medium runners, as I say, were squabbling and looking to the inside line. Late lunge from Danny Berejne. Somehow he's managed to get that one turned in, and he remains alongside Barry Burremand, who wasn't quite expecting it, forcibly having to defend. There's a bit of contact between the two. Contact between Benham and Tycho Hardy as well, but that is Benham through. A bit of a cleaner move there. As getting information, Josh Ido is lagging all over the place apparently, which is why Alfie Butcher struggled to get through. He's managed to make his way through now, and Ido is now Berejne's problem for that P5.
Certainly, and Danny Berejne could potentially be on for a podium if he can make some moves on the final couple of laps. He's in P6 currently. If he can jump Ido and Butcher, and then of course the penalty for Ishmael Fassi comes through, he could potentially be eyeing up a P3, which would be brilliant for the Hungarian as we make our way through in towards Maggots and Beckett for the penultimate time in this race. Ronhart's in second, Lawrence leads, but Berejne is on a charge.
Certainly is, and I believe Ishmael Fassi might be going for a move on Ronhart soon. He looked like he was shaping one up, but that is Berejne through on Ido nice and easily, and he's got Alfie Butcher up next up as the next challenger as the final lap is about to get underway, and Berejne will be trying to take P4 as Otis Lawrence leads this one by 1.5 seconds heading on to the final lap. This is the fight for fourth place. Butcher holds it at the moment, but with Berejne with 11 lap younger tyres, with mediums strapped onto the car, you'd imagine he'll be able to make his way through. It's just a case of when, not if.
Certainly, as we have about 3/4 of a lap to go here in this race. It's lap 26 of 26, and Danny Berejne is on course for a podium. Otis Lawrence is on course for a win here and bringing it, and will be on course to bring himself into the championship battle. As Bereshne looks for the centre potentially into Brooklands. No, he's going to have to go to the outside of Alfie Butcher. Can he get the move complete? It's the inside through and towards Luffield Corner, and that might be the move done for the podium. It certainly is. Into fourth, net third here for Danny Bereshne. What a race he's had. He was nowhere after the start. For the first few laps, he was just kind of trundling down in the bottom half of the top 10, but now he's up in the top 4, and of course penalties will go his way. But we look back at the front here of the pack. Otis Lawrence, it's been a race of aggression, it's been a race of having to make moves at the right time. He certainly has, and he now leads by over 2 seconds to Thomas Ronhaar. Of course, a win for him and no points for Klaffenbach and no points for Ismail Fassi really brings him into the championship battle, heading into the final round at Belgium next week. Into the final corner comes Otis Lawrence. It will be a win for him around Silverstone. It's Otis Lawrence who takes a win in the penultimate round of the season. Ronhaar will finish second. Penalties for Fassi means it will be Danny Bereshne on the podium in third place, with Alfie Butcher and Josh Edo the top 5.
Yeah, huge race there. That was an unbelievable Silverstone race, and I mentioned it at the start. When you have a good Silverstone race, it's generally because it's a great Silverstone race, and that's exactly what we had here today, rubbing pretty much up and down the field between a lot of the drivers, including the top 2 in the race here today. Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhaar coming to blows. Third place, a very well-earned third place from Danny Bereshne, but the Alpine is going to reign supreme at the top of this field here today, and very much deserved that victory, I think it's fair to say. And well, the championship now has swung based on that race alone, based on the contact that Julian Klaffenbach had on lap 1, which now means that Otis Lawrence has crept in to within 3 points of your championship leader.
Certainly. What a round we could have next week in Belgium to decide the championship, but of course what a race we had today, and this was probably the most important race of the season for the championship. It was Otis Lawrence that took the win. It was Ronhaar second ahead of Danny Bereshne. Then we had Alfie Butcher and Josh Edo the top 5. Then it was Barry Burman, Alvaro Caraton, Jake Benham, Tygo Hardy and Jack West our top 10. Then we had Angelo Dortentio followed by Duncan Hoffland, Rins Thomason with his best finish of the season. Then we had Fabrizio Donoso, Ruben Pedreño, Shanika Clay, Ismail Fassi and Bench Shabo Konyi. And then, of course, we did lose Joris Krozen and Julian Klaffenbach. What a shame for Julian. What a shame for Ismail Fassi. But realistically, Otis Lawrence will be loving the result of that one. And I'm sure if he didn't know that those two were out of it, he'll certainly be happy once he does now.
Certainly will be. Hopefully we'll get the chance to speak to Otis about the race that he's just had and about potentially the championship implications that might have as well. It's a very, very big moment, I think, in the championship fight. And, well, the fact that Jarno Opmeer didn't race as well, it's very much tightened it up at the top. So it will be Klaffenbach 3 points ahead of Otis Lawrence. And then, of course, Jarno, Ishmael and Nicolas Longuet are still mathematically in contention for it. This is going to be a great season finale with 5 different drivers still in with a chance.
Certainly, and I'm sure every single one of them will be looking to take that opportunity to go on to take their potentially first championship. Of course, for Jarno, it'd be his 4th. For everybody else, it will be their first. But we do have Thomas Ronhaar in the interview room. We'll drag him up quickly. Thomas, welcome in. Can you hear us?
Yep, can hear you.
Perfect. So, a chaotic race, to say the least. Of course, you actually decided to qualify today. Of course, you did take, you know, up in the top 3. What was you expecting from qualifying? Was you expecting, as always, to be on that front row?
I think we prepped the same as we would do for PSO, maybe a tiny bit less, because we want to relax a bit for F1 Esports coming up, whenever it's going to happen. But yeah, I think pace today was really good in both qualifying and the race. I think Otis, I don't know, I'm not sure what happened between him and Alfie. All I saw behind was Alfie spinning, I think in Stowe, so something might have happened. I think Alfie could have lost the car, there might have been contact. I don't know, but once Otis was behind me, it was basically game over from there, because the tire difference he had was too big for me to hold on towards the end. Yeah, he made a very deep move, a very late move in the last chicane, but made it stick, and then yeah, I tried to come back. It was my only chance basically to get a chance into turn six. Yeah, when I was at the apex, I locked both my fronts and then very minimal contact. Unfortunately, made him spin, but yeah, I knew straight away. I was just gonna let him go and finish in P2, and yeah, we'll see what happens in this duel room. Um, but yeah, I'm at least happy with my performance on track today. I think I maximized what I could have done.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, as we've seen all season long, overtaking is so difficult, pretty much around every track. And of course, next time out we head to Belgium, where there's not
Mhm.
that many overtaking opportunities. I mean, heading into that one, what is the strategy? Is it just about getting that best qualifying position and going for that undercut, or can you actually make moves if you're on that big offset?
Um, it's you can overtake a Spa. I think turn one and the last chicane is a very good overtaking opportunity. As long as you don't go deep and hit the cut in front of you. It should be a really fun track to drive on. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's been quite a while actually for me to drive Spa again, but yeah, looking forward to it, and yeah, we'll see what the strategy will be.
Yeah, certainly. But Thomas, thanks for joining us, mate. A pleasure to have you in here as always, and once again, congratulations on the podium. Have a good one, mate.
Cheers, thank you.
And next, we'll speak to, if anybody joins, you can have a chat with somebody, Joseph. I hope someone does join. We'll get someone that DNF'd him. Should we get? No, actually, I don't think it's a good idea to get Julian, is it? I think there'd be a few stern words.
Yeah, we might have to apologise for some language in advance. But no, he doesn't look like we're going to get anybody in, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, a good race, definitely setting up a very, very thrilling season finale. And well, I won't be alongside you next week, but I'll certainly be watching. It'll be good fun. I'll be watching in the background of whatever it is I'm doing.
Yes, certainly. And of course, we have for the title fight, we have, I think if it works out the way I've got it in my mind, it will be Julian Klafferbach that leads 3 points ahead of Otis Lawrence, and then Jana Watme is another 7 or 8 back. And then we have Ishmael Fassi in fourth, who's also got, I think he's actually out of contention, so I think it is between those three. I mean, who do you see it going the way of? Because Julian, no disrespect to him, because I love the guy, brilliant guy, has done a little bit of an Oscar Piastri in these past couple of races and just hasn't been where he has been previously. He's gone from being on podiums consistently to mistakes and P5 finishes only. Jana Watmia, he's yet again, you never know what you're going to expect with Jana. You either get a brilliant performance or a meh one. And then, of course, Otis Lawrence, he always turns up. So who do you realistically see it going the way of? Because all three of them have perfectly good reasons to say, I can do it.
I think Julian at the moment is struggling with a lack of experience. He's not fought for this championship before, and well, it's very much just been a learning experience for him this year. I think that's the case for McLaren as a whole, but that's been going on for a few too many years now. But yeah, it's been a very good learning experience for Klaffenbach. But I really do think that Otis Lawrence has that momentum. He has the raw ability. They both do, but I think he's just got the guile to take it over the line.
Certainly, it will be a close one. That is safe to say, indeed. And I won't make my predictions because every time I do, I curse somebody. So I'm not going to bother today. I'm going to keep my mouth shut to my predictions for the championship. But of course, Joseph, it's been a pleasure to have you this season alongside myself and also alongside Dan on multiple occasions. So once again, thank you for your service here this season. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll see you next season whenever that happens. I'm hoping that it'll be the start of F126, but we'll have to wait and see. And before we go, from yourself quickly, any last words? I mean, I know it sounds like it's a funeral, but yes, any last words?
Yeah, Nathan's currently holding a gun to my head. No, it's been good fun. It's been good fun over the course of the season. I believe I've done something along the lines of half the races, maybe just under, and it's been great to get the opportunity. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for being alongside me. Of course, it's never the same just by yourself or with somebody that you don't want to work with. So it's been good fun, and of course the racing, especially today, has been something far beyond what I could have expected.
Yes, I was saying to Luke before the stream actually. I don't think it'll be that good today. You can't overtake here unless you have stupid strategies. And well, we did have stupid strategies, but we also had some very aggressive overtaking. That is safe to say. So of course, one last time, big thank you to you, Joseph. Of course, to the views in the chat. We had less of you today, unfortunately, but a big thanks to you that stuck with us all the way to the end of that one. And yes, we'll be back next week. Without any issues, it'll be myself and Dan for the final round where we get to crown our champion. There's 3 drivers in contention. We've got Jarno Watmere looking for his 4th. And then, of course, Julian Klaffenbach and Otis Lawrence looking for their 1st. So make sure to come back. November 20th, next Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time, as always. But for now, that is all from us over here at WOR. So have a good evening, have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Good night.